Hello and welcome to the NHL Best Bets. Yesterday we had a few picks that were not so successful. It looks like teams have already changed their mode completely and they are not pushing as they did earlier this season, as there's not too much to play anymore for those teams that have already disqualified from the playoffs and for those teams that have which are going to the playoffs. They may have some home field advantage on a stake, but nothing else. So Arizona played in San Jose. San Jose dominated first part of the game, but couldn't score too many goals, only two. But then Arizona started to play, and San Jose raised their backs and started. How do I say it in English? Not to skate anymore, but just do some kind of figure skating in the field. So at the end, the result was very clearly for the Arizona 5-2. And then Anaheim, Minnesota, tight game, not any kind of high quality match. Minnesota won at the end in overtime 4-3, so 6 goals that went under 5.5, and so over 5.5, and a wrong pick again. Tommy, what's your take?
Well, of course, disappointing to see these. We knew that these were a little bit of a coin flip kind of selections, but for example, the San Jose game, very disappointing for the home team. They should have scored early on more. They did score the third goal in the third period to make it even, but it was disallowed. So kind of then it just fell apart for San Jose. So very disappointing whole season. We've seen up and down from this team, but now Arizona just was more hungry to win this game, and they did deserve their win. A younger team, upcoming team, a good performance from a couple of their guys. So they have a bright future if they just keep on doing what they're doing best. So let's see how the future goes for Arizona. It looks not very bright for San Jose, and it was a pretty bad pick from us this time. So the odds makers were correct for compared to the simulations. In Minnesota, where I was discussing about the goaltending situation, they have two good goaltenders. Kähkönen started now, did not impress, so I'm pretty sure they will go with the French card Talbot coming to the playoffs. So he's the number one keeper. Good game from Minnesota first early on, but then a little bit probably let go of their sort of most push there. So Anaheim got a couple of easy goals. Came to take the draw, and Minnesota did win, but too many goals for our under pick. But I would say in the normal circumstances this would have been an under. Now when it's a clear thing for Minnesota to be in the playoffs, Anaheim out, it was a little bit more open than expected. So that one not as bad pick as San Jose was, but still of course disappointing to see the red. But let's turn that around today.
Yeah, speaking about totals, last night only Colorado LA game was 5-goal game, and then all the others had 6 or 7 goals. How do you see? Will it be only overs now until end of the regular season?
That's definitely the trend here, which is understandable when you have teams that have nothing else to play for than their pride and maybe the roster spots next year, and then you have teams who are preparing for the playoffs, probably rotating their rosters and maybe playing second, third goalkeepers from the taxi squad. All these sort of preparation things. It's a much more open ice hockey usually in these end of the season games, and of course also when you're not sacrificing 100% all the time. These teams are so talented with the puck and offensively that they will likely score goals if they get the chances. So I do see the trend going up, and it's easy to see from the statistics as well.
One playoff race that is still on is in Central Division, Nashville against Dallas, and Dallas took a surprise victory against Tampa, their Stanley Cup final opponent from last year. now there's 2 points difference between Nashville and Dallas, and Dallas is playing against Chicago next 2 games, Nashville against Carolina that has already secured the number 1 spot in division. So which team will go to playoffs?
I do still say that it's Nashville, like the simulations do as well. Nashville needs only 1 win from these 2 games against Carolina, and Carolina, like you said, already secured the top spot of that division. So I do think Nashville will push through. It was a good win for Dallas last night against Tampa. They lost heavily the first one. Now they came back and won 5-2. Of course, it was the Finnish guys, Roope Hintz and Joel Kiviranta, who were the mans of the match in that game. So you needed a little bit of a Finnish influence to get back into the playoff race. But I don't think that Dallas has enough to push. Even if they would win both of their games, if Nashville gets 2 more points, they are through. So it will be close, but I do still think that Nashville will take this playoff spot.
Yeah, that may be decided tonight when Carolina goes to Nashville and these teams face each other. Let's go through our picks for tonight, and like said, maybe there won't be any unders anymore. Maybe first time in history we have 2 over 6 goals picks here. First of all, Philadelphia in Washington. Last night they played 6 goals game. Philadelphia won that. Now there is speculation that 2 not so top tier goalies are playing, and that's usually some kind of indication that there will be more goals. Washington general is offensive team that scores a lot, and Philadelphia has been scoring a lot, or at least giving a lot goals recently, so most of their games have been overs. And another game, Colorado in Los Angeles, second game in a row for them as well. Both teams may have this third string goalie. Colorado will play Mr. Johansson, that has been marked not so top goaltender first of all in Buffalo, and he hasn't convinced too much in Colorado either. And Colorado then traded Dubnyk as a number 2 goalkeeper for the playoffs. And Los Angeles goalkeeper won't be Cal Peterson nor Jonathan Quick, so some kind of third string guy that Tommy, you may know better.
Not much to tell about Troy Grossenich there in the goal for Los Angeles Kings. Not a lot of NHL games this season. 1 game, played well. They won 5-1, but it was against Anaheim. So a good game from the fella. But yeah, I do think that now facing Colorado, a completely different kind of opponent, and Colorado also wants to probably score goals, as that's their bread and butter that they do really well. Last night they shot 37 times. Of course, a little bit better goaltender Cal Peterson then took most of those, but still Colorado won 2-3. This game, both teams probably now a little bit loosened from the last night's game. Colorado still is fighting for the top spot of that division, so they are likely to go full on offense. Kings didn't get much going last night, but they are capable of scoring a couple of goals against this third string keeper that Colorado will give a game, probably in preparation for the playoffs, because last season they were in trouble after all their goaltenders got injured. So now they are preparing to at least have a capable guy in there between the pipes, whatever happens. So I do think this is going to be an open, free-flowing game with goals scored in both ends with an equal capacity. But I think Colorado is so much better team that they will, in the end, push a couple of more. So a great value for over 6 goals. It's rare that we would go this wild with the overs, but it's Saturday, so let's hope that these teams will give all they got, and in preparation for Colorado's playoffs and for the Kings to show that they're also get something going offensively. In the simulations, we had 55% going over 6 goals, so a good value for this game. And in the East, a bit of a similar kind of thing. Philadelphia out of the playoffs, Washington battling for the top spot. It's been a hard couple of games for Washington, offensively. They're without Alex Ovechkin. Kuznetsov was out due to a decision by the coaches. He's now, I think, entered into COVID protocol. There are some issues in there with these couple of star players, but Capitals are going to play offense when they are in this situation. They need to bounce back. They only scored 2 goals last night. Could have scored a lot more. Philadelphia likely to start Alex Lyons, the third goalkeeper. Not great team defensively, not a great goaltender, so Washington is likely to bang in a couple of goals. Also, Craig Anderson likely starter for Washington because Samsonov also in COVID protocol, so they have some sort of issue with the goaltending. And Washington not so great defensively as of late. So I think this is going to be, again, a free-flowing, open game, quite physical, probably like these two teams like to play, but a lot of goals. So in the simulations, we have over 6 goals going for 54%. So great value in here as well. I have to say about the Philadelphia defense that at times they are capable of playing well, but now when they have nothing to play for, I think it's going to be more of an offensive style of defending as well. So a lot of goals, a good game expected in here as well.
We've seen that during the recent days and maybe 1 week, many of these games that has nothing to play for, only pride and maybe future contracts, the predictions are a bit off, and it's difficult to predict what kind of game there will be. It's a bit like a pre-season that you never know what will happen, and some of the teams are having some other objectives than just winning the game. Maybe they are checking some players, like you said, and figuring out will this guy be in their roster next year as well. But there are 2 games that could be very good for tonight. Tampa plays against Florida in the championship of Florida State, and they have still online home field or home arena advantage for their first round of playoffs, where these teams are facing each other. And then other game, St. Louis goes to Vegas. They have also a little bit on the line, at least for Vegas. They are still holding the number 1 position in the West Division, and Colorado 4 points behind, 1 game in hand. So Vegas needs to win these games in order to secure home arena advantage. That is remarkable in Vegas because they have very passionate fans and a bit different, let's say, altitude than in Colorado. If you need to play over there in Denver for 1 extra game, that is for sure disadvantage for all the visitors.
Yeah, I think these 2 games are already really good previews for the playoffs. These teams might face each other in there. All of these teams have a mentality to play the playoff kind of hockey. So in Florida, of course, Panthers, the surprising team this season, Tampa Bay, the reigning champions. They played really entertaining and good hockey games, very evenly matched teams. I think Tampa Bay is a little bit better. They're a little bit more prepared, a little bit more of a, let's say, contender caliber at this moment. In the simulations, Tampa Bay will win 56.6% of these games, while the odds indicate 52.8%. So the value is for Tampa Bay. They are likely to start now Vasilevsky. They are likely to play their best players because it is about the home advantage there as well, and also the local rivalry. They don't want to give Florida Panthers the upper hand by any means in case these teams meet in the first round of the playoffs, which seems pretty likely. For the other game in Vegas, we finally have Vegas as favorites here compared to the odds. So 61.6% in simulations, and the odds are 60.6%. So 1%, but still finally favoring Vegas. Against St. Louis, they played a really tough matchup yesterday, very closely fought. It was a playoff hockey at its best, so I think it's going to be a similar sort of situation. Vegas is a tad better team. If they want to keep their top spot, they have to fight off Colorado Avalanche. So this is a game they do need to win. So I think both of these games will be very both of these but all of the 4 teams in both of these games will be highly motivated to win. So it's supposed to be very good games, both of these 2.
And third game where the playoff pairing is preparing for the playoffs is in Toronto. We picked this Toronto-Montreal game a few nights ago, and it was complete pullover by the home team. Montreal was playing like predicted for whole season, and these teams are facing each other again. Home team is again big favorite, also by our simulations, and even though there is value for home team, the odds are not very great. Do you think Montreal is just waiting for playoffs to start and then they will strike back and surprise Toronto?
It's hard to say what Montreal is doing, because they haven't been as good as others predicted. They've been exactly as good as we did, so we barely had them in the playoffs. It was a fight between Calgary and Montreal. We had Calgary going into the playoffs. Now Montreal has taken that spot, but they are not playing very well. They do need to play a lot tighter defense, like we keep repeating. They cannot get into these shootout matches with the likes of Toronto or Edmonton. They're not good enough offensively, and this is what will show probably tonight as well. Toronto is so good in offense that they will outshoot Montreal, and if Montreal can't keep Toronto to, let's say, 2 goals, they cannot win this game. So in the simulations, it's 75% for Toronto. In the odds, it's minus 200. There is a little bit of value even with these very small odds for Toronto. I do see them so much better team that if they only have the motivation to win, they will win this game.
Let's see what kind of motivation there is tonight, because we've seen that during the last few days that some, especially the veteran players with 7-year contracts and maybe 8 million per season type of money, are raising their backs and not maybe pushing so much as money would expect them to do.
Yeah, I would think if I had that kind of paycheck, I might not do a lot for the next 5 to 6 years either.
We'll review the performance of Erik Karlssons and company later and come back tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.